Ladies and gentlemen, I have just received word of a late-breaking news bulletin. It appears it is time... It is time for the show.
Much like Bruce Wayne is Batman, my boy Sam is the swag man with the best guests, not the best dressed, but the secrets, he's the best kept. So everybody gather round, it is time for the show. Gather round, everybody, it is time for the show. If you're looking for the football takes, if you're playing for high stakes, or just in like a home league with your friends and co-workers or something, here it is, the show with Sam Wagman. And are you ready for the show with the swag man? Are you ready for the show with the swag man? Are you ready for the show, for the show, for the show, for the show, for the show with the swag man?
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the show. I am your host, Sam Wagman. You can find me at Swagman95 on Twitter. You can find me at TheShowFF on Twitter, along with all my stuff at 14 Personnel. You can find my Eagles content over at 4th and John. But we got a very special guest tonight. And, we've been chatting a little bit for the past couple months. You know, we kind of connected a little bit earlier. And I was really happy you agreed to come do this because I know you're a big best ball guy. And we got a nice little show planned for you guys. Derek, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What's going on, Sam? Thanks for having me, man. I mean, look, I told you in DMs, I was like, whatever you want to talk, whatever day, as long as I can make it work, let's make this happen, dude. So excited to be here. I've been out in these best ball streets, sitting here posting lineups, all kinds of stuff. It's been awesome, man. I mean, that's what we're at. We're at rookie draft season, and we're at best ball season right now. So let's chop it up tonight, man.
Dude, and what I love best about this period is that, we're after the draft, like we talked about. So, everyone's kind of stopped talking about the draft that much. And, now we're kind of on to rookie mini camps just started today. Like the Eagles one started today. And, everyone's kind of hyping up best ball because these are the times that it's kind of a lull. We don't have much to do until training camp starts in, July and August. So, from here until then, we're kind of just grinding out some best ball content. And, I really I wanted to do a best ball draft tonight because, first of all, I've never done one live before. I think it would be cool to see, us talk about some strategy, stuff like that. But I really kind of want to do a best ball draft because I think everyone should see what Underdog Fantasy is coming into. And it really is awesome what they're doing. And you guys can find them at Underdog Fantasy on Twitter. And they put on a great product for us. But before we do that, I kind of want to go back into you. I want to, kind of tell everyone how you started because I know I dug into you a little bit. You've been at this a while. You've been podcasting, writing, doing all this fantasy football stuff on the level for 3 years now. So how'd you get into this?
Yeah, so way back when. We had moved from Louisiana to Texas and stuff, and you move to a new location, you don't have as many friends, and you're like, okay, well, how am I going to fill my time besides running after my kids every single day? And fantasy football was always a massive hobby for me, and I was always far too into it than everybody else in my leagues. I used to get text calls, all kinds of stuff from people, and they were like, look, I'm not trading you shit. Stop. Leave me alone. You've already sent me 4 offers. It's all good. Leave me alone. And we moved to Texas, and my wife and I had always played in leagues together and stuff like that. I ended up, one day I was just like, you know what? I think I could actually, try to write or at least put something out there into the ether. I had a Twitter account, got on there, and I DM'd a few people that I had saw, were at least online and in the space and stuff. I still remember, I cold DM'd Anthony Servino and Mike Hoffs, who I still talk to this day. And I was like, so how'd you get started writing? Where do you write? What does that look like? I want to do it, but I don't know how. And that spawned into, I got hooked up with a website that is now defunct. I mean, they sell draft kits, but no other content. It was Fantasy Football 24/7. And the relationship with the owner of that site went from, hey, I want to write some articles. I'm going to do it for free. To, hey, do you want a podcast? Hey, do you want to run the site? Hey, do you want to edit? Hey, do you want to help co-run all of this? And that kind of led to, I was like, you know what? I really want to give this at least a shot. I had no aspirations at that time of trying to do this a full-time gig. And I was like, maybe I could just make some whiskey money, man. Make some money, or or make a little bit of extra cash throughout the year, save up, bring my family on a vacation or whatever, like whatever I make out of doing this. Mm-hmm. And then also bringing in some cash, like it justifies all the time to my wife. Mm-hmm. And so the more I kind of dove into it, I started writing. I wrote for Player Profiler for a little bit. Mm-hmm. I wrote for, I became like I don't want to say like an assassin, but I was basically like, what established brands and sites can I write for and kind of get my name out there on bigger platforms? So I wrote for Roto Underworld for a little bit, wrote for Numberfire for a little bit for JJ, got hooked up, and then I got hooked up with a few different sites, and I stumbled across somebody that I'm very, very close to these days, Elliot Christ, and he had put out a tweet into the space, and everybody talks about networking, and sometimes, like, we were friends because, or we weren't friends at the time, we knew each other basically through the owner of 24/7, they were in a bunch of leagues together. And so I cold DM'd Elliot. I was like, look, he put something out in the space like, hey, I got a crazy announcement and blah, blah, blah. Like, basically, he was going to start, doing this as a job. And he's like, I can't announce anything yet. And I said, I cold DM'd him and I said, I was like, whatever you got working on, whether it's site or whatever. I was like, first of all, congrats. Second of all, if you need anybody to write or whatever, I'd love to sit here and throw my hat into the ring. So, like, I emailed him 2 of my articles, and boof, like, he hit me up the next day, and it was for a DFS site, which is, I think it's still running. I don't really know, because they don't really do much of anything these days. It was the Quant Edge, and so I got hooked up doing that, and basically, I never said no to anything. Nothing. And probably a little bit to my detriment. But did a ton of stuff for the Quant Edge. That ended up cutting all content, and so I was basically in free agent land. Done some work with Sirius, with DK Sweat, things like that. And really, I mean, honestly, Sam, like, I just grinded the hell out of this. I was like, look, if I might not be the master of anything, but I'm not going to be like a total dunce at anything. Like, if I can't sit here, like, I want to sit here and dive into as many things as I possibly can and get as good as I possibly can at all type of stuff. So that eventually landed like an interview and everything with FTN, and here it is today, man. I mean, it's all been a crazy 3 years, a lot of places, a lot of content, a lot of no sleep. Doing podcasts, like when I was, so before I did all of this, I was a pediatric nurse for about 14 years. I worked for St. Jude, did all of that. I did management. I was a nurse manager, all that kind of stuff. And man, I used to podcast on before work, after work. That's what I did on a lot of my lunch breaks. Shout out to Benny Heiss, who I was on his pod. Like, I'd be walking, like, pacing around the parking lot, doing a podcast off of my phone. And then I'd go right back. I wouldn't even have lunch. I'd just podcast on my lunch break, go back into work and stuff like that, and then get home, write articles and what have you, dude. So it's been crazy. I can't say it was the healthiest path to ever take, but I mean, look, it is what it is.
Yeah, and definitely, like, as someone who's new to this space, and I just joined in a few months ago, the best advice that I've been given is to, find a time management that works the best for you, but to still, know that if you want to pursue this, then you have to work at it. You have to do it, but not to an unhealthy extent. And I really think it's important that you know your limits and your boundaries when you're doing this. But to do everything that you've done, you grinded at it. You obviously succeeded. You're here at FTN. You host a great show, Fade the Chalk, that I personally love to listen to. I know it's one of our friend Steph's favorite shows. She loves listening to it. So, I mean, it is a great show, but what other, do you have any other advice that you would offer to someone who's just trying to break into this industry? Like how to manage their time, stuff like that?
I can't give any advice about how to manage time. I'm absolutely terrible at it, like horrible at it.
As am I.
I have a hard time just knowing when to shut it off, dude. Like, and honestly, like, and doing it full time, that hasn't changed. I've literally all day today. I mean, I've been at my desk writing and doing content. I mean, we did 2 podcasts earlier today. So I really can't. put it this way, any advice that I give you as far as time management is going to be really disingenuous because I don't even follow my own damn advice. So I wish I could sit here and tell people like a good way to do that. If anybody has any kind of good advice or tips, I would take it.
We're here for that, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, but as far as like breaking into the industry and stuff, you hear all types of stuff these days. I mean, whether it's networking and all these slogans and the same repeated crap from people every single day. You gotta sit here and you gotta be positive. You gotta network. You gotta sit here and you have to put out stuff that nobody else is doing. Blah 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 blah. A lot of this stuff, like you hear it so often. It's like, is that really helpful to anybody? I mean, honestly, man, my best thing that I could tell anybody these days would be, and I talked about this on, shout out to Dynasty Vipers. I talked to this on their podcast, and that's kind of where this was spawned off the top of my bald head, was either be niche or be multiple. And really, like, that's literally like either you dive into one thing and you are the damn best and you know it front and back, or dive into as many different things as you possibly can. Like, since I got into this space, I started a redraft. I dove into Dynasty. I started working for TQE back in the day. I had never played a lick of DFS in my life because I lived in a state for my entire life up until the last 5 years where I couldn't play DFS. I didn't even know what it was. And I started working with that site, and I slowly started to learn it and all this kind of stuff. And now all I do is just as much DFS content as I do anything else. And so, and you talk about best ball. Hell, best ball's a brand new frontier. Absolutely. There's not a ton of content out there. Not a ton of sharp content out there. So, if you're going to dive into something, either cast the net as wide as you possibly can. So when you're trying to sit here and you want to present yourself to a company, to a website, to anybody, and say, this is all of the things that I can do, and they're going to look at you and say, well, what the hell can't you do? Or you're going to say, I can do this one or two things, and I do them really, really, really damn well. And that's honestly the best advice I can give anybody. Don't know if it's good, don't know if it's great, it could suck. But that's all I got. That's it.
Well, I don't want to keep too many people waiting since we do have a full room. So we came on here to give you guys a best ball draft, and that's what we're going to do. So, Derek, without further ado, why don't you go on, join as our 12th person, and let's get this best ball draft started. I'm going to share my screen and let you guys follow along with us.
All right. This link will load.
And yes, follow Davis's best ball content. I did read a couple of his articles and stuff. It is actually pretty good. For someone who's new to best ball like myself, but stuff that he's putting out. I mean, it's not a saturated industry right now. So it's it's free and clear, and Davis is doing a great job with his stuff there.
All right, let me try to access this another way.
Okay.
Sorry. So, every time you want to do something in tech and then it, of course, it has a brain fart.
Absolutely.
It's one of those things, man. Did you play best ball last year, or is this your first year playing into it?
I did not. This is legitimately my first year. I dove right into it when, I saw I think the first one I did was with Dave Kluge. Okay. He posted one on the timeline.
Oh, you gotta get Kluge,
I know he's dove right into it, man. I get Kluge on a daily basis.
Send me that link again. The last link, it just looks, I don't know if they're having an issue with the server right now on Underdog or what.
I sent it.
Okay.
But while we're waiting for that to load, tell everyone about the Fantasy Black Book, because that, is something a lot of people know, but not everyone knows, and it's something that Joe Pisapia does, and it's a great piece of content. But what do you do for Fantasy Black Book?
Oh, Joe has me doing all the dirty work, man. I love Joe to death. Joe, and again, we're talking about cold DMs, and I DM'd Joe, it's probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know what the heck the problem is. I apparently can't get into this room. It's
odd.
But the background on Joe is I DM'd him. This is probably about 3 years ago, and I was like, look, the Black Book's awesome. I've heard great things. I was like, if you ever need anybody to work on stuff, look, I'm willing, man. And so he put me on tight ends. And last year, so the first year I did tight ends. Second year I did team previews for the NFC North, and I did defense. And this year I'm back on defense and I'm back on tight end. So I always mess with him. I love to poke Joe and mess with him about stuff. But always you give me the dirty work stuff. You give me the nasty positions that nobody else wants to write and stuff, just so I could sit here and pull his chain a little bit. But it's fantastic, man. There is an awesome team this year. I mean, we got Mike Florio from NFL. We got a bunch of other people in there that have done amazing content across the fantasy industry. My dude Nate Hamilton's doing it again this year. I don't know why this link won't let me in, Sam.
I'm trying to. I'm gonna do it from. Let's try this from here.
I've never gotten that message before.
Yeah, I sent it to the wrong room. I'll send this to you. Maybe it'll work off of my phone.
All right, let's try this.
That does happen sometimes. That it doesn't bring up the league, but that's very odd that's happening.
Yeah, it just says the branch team has been notified and looking into it. Something about there's an issue on their server.
Okay, well that is odd. Well, I guess in the meantime, since we're having technical difficulties, we can talk what we were going to talk about during the draft anyway. So,
Okay.
Sam used Safari. Well, I tried it off my phone, Scott. I'm not sure if that was the issue. I think it's the actual Underdog server.
Yeah, I think it could be.
Because I sent it. Yeah, I just sent it off
my
my
browser.
phone.
I've tried it on my phone.
Well, I can try. I'll create a new one. Let's try that. But let's see.
Okay.
Here. Let's try a new one. Create private draft. Okay. I'm going to send the new one.
Okay. I was like, I mean, at the very basement, if I'm having tech issues on my side, you and I can sit here and just walk hand in hand and stroll down the best ball lane and sit here and draft the team together. Yeah,
we can do that too. If this doesn't work, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
And we can find one more person. Sure, that's not an issue. But let's start with what we were talking about anyway. So I want to go into some facts and myths, about the draft, about the NFL as a whole. But so let's start with some of the draft, facts and myths. What did you think about the Bengals drafting Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell? What was the right move there for them?
So for me, I think you really can splice this up either way, man. I mean, honestly, I personally thought that they should have gone with Sewell and they could have got another talented wide receiver in the second round. But I mean, obviously Cincinnati didn't agree with me and they were like, well, whatever. But okay, so it looks like I could possibly get into this one. Whatever issue they were having with their server, they're not now. So I'm in the original one.
Okay. All right.
So, yes, but about Sewell and stuff, with Cincinnati, I could see where they were like, okay, if, say, an outside wide receiver that we feel like is not the same caliber of Jamar Chase, which this class was really, really shallow, Sam. And so I can understand that versus them being like, okay, the offensive line's not great. Is it good enough to sit here and protect Joe Burrow? And can we add other pieces in a deep offensive line class? Personally, I think the move was to go Sewell, considering that they had good wide receivers to begin with, but if Cincinnati's like, we can get good enough blocking and we get a stud like Chase and then we just fill in the corners and the cracks everywhere else, I can't fault it, man. But again, like you're asking me to take a side here, I think they should have gone with Sewell, but that's just me.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you on that, and I think they definitely should have gone with Sewell too. But it is arguable. I mean, they took Jackson Carman in the second round. That's not a terrible pick, but it's not Penei Sewell. It's not Slater. You know, it's not someone that would have helped. And I don't think that Burrow is gonna like die or anything on the field. Like this strategy is not going to kill them, but it's not the best thing for them. And it kind of does have me worried that this is just not working. And the people that left is getting they're getting the error message too. So we're going to just
what I had to do in Internet Explorer, at least on my phone and stuff, is if you just pull the drop down, it'll give you a link or it says like open the Underdog app. And so I clicked open the app and then it pulled it up.
Okay.
At least that's what I did for my phone to sidestep it. I couldn't find a way to sidestep it on the browser, but clicking the link and then when it pulled up the error message, if you barely like pull down and then click at the very top, it'll say it. I mean, this is what I'm seeing on my iPhone. I don't know if anybody else has got different setups, but
yeah, I have no idea. We're just missing 2 people. So if they figure it out, they figure it out. But for the meantime, we'll just talk our facts and myths. But what about the Kadarius Toney pick at 20? What did you think about that?
That was a terrible pick. It was a horrible pick. And I'm sorry. Like, look, Smalls, if you're watching this show, I'm sorry, not sorry. It was a terrible pick. Like, I think Gettleman got absolutely brain fried. He traded back once. His noodle got fried. And he's like, look, like, we need to sit here and get a wide receiver. And I just look, Kadarius Toney, if you look at his analytical profile, it's riddled with potholes. And I mean, you're literally hoping that he's an outlier and he debunks all of these different things. But even if you turn on the film, I mean, the guy's explosive, that's great, but his route running needs work. And the other thing about it is, like, we all kind of talked about it and we wanted him to go to a place where they were going to have like a creative play call or somebody that was going to scheme him into space and allow him to grow as a player and maybe actualize this type of upside. Who the hell is going to think that is any type or any type of description of Jason Garrett? Because it sure as hell isn't. Jason Garrett is incredibly, incredibly dolt-minded. He's horrible. Like, if he's not fired, like, if Judge stays around and this offense tanks again, Garrett's gone. So I think the best thing you can hope for Kadarius Toney is that maybe Garrett's gone after this year, and they bring in somebody smart, and then they can unlock him. But it's difficult, Sam. It's difficult to see why the hell they picked him that high, because I could almost be like, why didn't they just trade back again? But then there's rumors of, like, okay, well, maybe other teams wanted him, but again, at that point, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it's the NFL getting married to whether it's his analytics or whatever. But I hated the pick personally.
We are live. We have 12 people, so
let's go.
We have this draft ready to go.
Oh, the 103,
and I am the 101. So I saw.
Oh, so you're gonna go wide receiver, right? You're gonna just debunk the chalk.
I saw before the draft that Steph was 101 in a league, in a Superflex league, that she picked Kyler Murray. I am going to do the same and zag instead of zig, and you guys will see what I do. But I'm sorry for the technical difficulties; they do happen. Let's get this draft started. But in the meantime, ETN or J-Rob?
For me, wait, who's going to lead the backfield this year, or dynasty?
Who's a better option for the Jaguars? Say they keep them both long term. Say they're both on million-year contracts.
I mean, J-Rob's around there for the next 2 years, so you're going to see that happen, man. I mean, honestly, like, I think James Robinson's the better all-around back. I'm lower than consensus on ETN. I mean, I'll talk about him being just a really sexy version of Tevin Coleman. And I know it sounds like I'm throwing shade. I think he has more raw talent and more explosive ability than James Robinson. You're talking about who has the better vision, who can play and showed us that he's a 3-down back. I mean, yeah. Obviously, James Robinson already did that, man. So, you went against the chalk. You did. You went Barkley for 101. Nice.
I faded the chalk.
Oh, nice drop. Nice drop.
I had to drop the name there, but I may just draft off my phone since this is being very, very particular here. Let's see. Yeah, it's very laggy for me, but so McCaffrey goes 102, of course. Dalvin, you took Dalvin at 103. Who's going to be better, Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle?
In rookie season, I think Devontae Smith. Over their whole entire career, I lean Devontae Smith. I mean, it's not that I don't.
I thought
like
you were going to
Waddle.
zag. I thought you were going to zag on me there for a second.
No. I love Devontae Smith. I absolutely love him, and buying into him, you're buying into the fact that he is going to be an outlier, which I'm totally fine with. I'm comfortable making that bet. I mean, Waddle, my comp has been Tyler Lockett for him, and I think that that's probably the career arc that he's probably going to have. Not talking about injuries and things like that, but not necessarily a high volume target. But a guy that can sit here and have high volume games, but he's really going to rely on speed and efficiency in the big ceiling weeks. And so that's kind of what I envision for Waddle. And Devonta Smith is a guy we could see both. We could see, I mean, he's shown the ability to win at all levels of the field. He's also shown the ability to sit here and win deep. And I think that he's a guy that could be a high volume target for a passing offense, and that's why I lean with him, because I think that the target volume for him is going to be more sustainable year after year.
Yeah, and I definitely think, and I'm a big Devontae Smith fan. I'm sure you've seen me all over the timeline talking about Devontae Smith. I do it at least once a day at this point. My name on most of my live streams is typically Devontae Smith is elite. It was what it was. I decided to change it off because it's getting a little old, because he's still going to be elite. I saw him. I saw some of the rookie minicamp clips of him today from the first day of minicamps, and I'm just very excited for the fact the Eagles haven't had a 1,000-yard wide receiver since 2014 when Jeremy Maclin was in green and white for us. And the problem with the Eagles is that they've never been good at developing wide receiver talent. So, but I'm not too worried about Devontae Smith because he just doesn't seem like he's going to bust. He doesn't seem like someone that they reached on, like the Rager pick last year. And I love the Rager pick. I was not a huge fan of Justin Jefferson pre-draft, mostly because I wasn't doing analysis like I did this year, and I didn't know as much. I'm sure if I did more analysis, I would have found that Jefferson was the guy last year. But I was all in on Jalen Reagor, but I never really saw him as a one. And I think the Eagles reached a little bit trying to, because the draft capital essentially made them try to turn him into the number one guy there, and it really didn't make sense for them. But I'm happy that they have a guy that can be considered a number one receiver now. I have no concerns about his stupid BMI. I have no concerns about anything else with him. He doesn't have any concerns, and that's the most important part. He is the most if there's a flawless receiver prospect in this draft, it's not Chase, it's him. So I'm there.
I love him. I mean, I don't disagree with anything that you said. I mean, I think that I actually was a big Rager guy too. I think he was my wide receiver 1 or 2 going into last year. I think that he can play outside. I think that considering weird off-season injuries and stuff like that, I don't really think that we've seen the best out of Jalen Reagor yet. So I think the jury still is out on him. So I'm not willing to sit here and count too much of this against him, at least at this point right now.
Absolutely. And there's just no reason that he can't step right in and year one, 100 targets. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1 for fantasy, but he can definitely be a very high wide receiver 3. He can definitely sneak into that top 24. I have him inside my top 24 for redraft.
Sam, the other thing about, you talk about Rager? Like the other thing about him, for Devontae Smith.
Yeah, for Devontae Smith. For Rager I think is going to slot in there as as their burner type. He's going to take the role of Deshaun Jackson.
They need to put him in the slot is what they need to do. They should have done that last year to ease this transition and allow him to sit here and play against off corners and ease some of this transition for him. I think that's probably what we see this year, Sam. Like, if Devontae Smith's going to be on the outside, I think he does play a little bit in the slot, but Fulgham, I think, is going to play the other side. Rager should be the starting slot wide receiver over Greg Ward, and if that's the case, we could see a much better, more polished, full off-season Jalen Rager this year. So, I mean, look, we haven't talked about him yet, and I don't know how many name drops I want to sit here and talk about here yet, but I've been all in on Jalen Hurts before any of this stuff like this year. I was all in on Jalen Hurts before the Eagles even freaking took him. I'm still there, man. I love him. Love Jalen Hurts.
I want to see, and the rest of the NFL wants to see whether he can be a starting quarterback in this league. And it's not even his fantasy upside is his true talent. I mean, he's the Konami code. He's the cheat code. You know, he's got QB1 overall upside, and it wouldn't shock me to see him land squarely inside the top 5. I mean, there's a wide contingent on fantasy Twitter that, you know, is coming around to that. But it's going to be very interesting to see if he does enough for the Eagles to retain him next year. They're going to retain him nonetheless. He's a second-round pick. You owe him, just over $1 million for the next 2 years. You don't owe him a lot of money. So whether they decide he's their guy or not, he's going to be there until his contract runs out. Because if nothing else, he's a very high caliber backup for them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that he's going to be given this year to prove that he could be an NFL starter. And if he can cut the mustard, they're probably going to let him roll with it. And if he can't, they're probably going to be picking high because they got a really bad team. And they're just going to go out and get the quarterback next year. So I think it's this year to sit here and for him to establish himself. But I like it. I like it, Sam. Like the pieces they have put around him, he can have the ability to do so.
Yeah, and I think that people haven't given him enough credit, and I think it's great that you're all in on Hurts, like specifically as a quarterback at this level. People forget that he put up numbers like 27-2 at Alabama. He's not a bad quarterback. And sure, the system has to be kind of tailored around him, but that's what the Eagles do. The Eagles were able to tailor a system around Nick Foles to win a Super Bowl on short notice after Carson Wentz went down in 2017. They were able to do it again the following year, after Wentz had the back injury for Nick Foles as well. There's no reason that he shouldn't be able to pull something off here, and I am in a bit of a quandary. There's no wide receivers here. And that's the problem with this one spot, but I'm going to go ahead and take Kenny Golladay since he's one of the few alpha guys that are left.
What's your thoughts on Golladay for this year? But while I kind of hang you up while you're making your second pick, go ahead and get your second pick in and then tell me Golladay.
Okay. I like him. Let's see. We're gonna go Josh Allen here. And I haven't gotten to do that yet. That's my first share of Josh Allen in best ball. I'm kind of excited about that. But I like Golladay, and again, it's the same issues that Kadarius Toney has. It's Jason Garrett. It's whether that a created enough offense can be tailored around him, coupled with the fact that, and please, Steph, if you're watching this, please do not hate me. Daniel Jones has just not shown that he can, be a relevant starting quarterback in this league. He just hasn't been great. He had 11 touchdowns to, I want to say it was 18 turnovers last year, but I'm not quite sure on that. Whatever it was, he far outpaced himself with the turnover. So that's a major issue. I mean, this is his last shot. It doesn't matter that he has Jason Garrett as his play caller. I mean, that in and of itself is a recipe for disaster, but I'm not sure. I like Golladay because he's an alpha guy. We know he can produce, but will the quarterback hurt him? That's the big question.
So I like Daniel Jones. I think that we saw him flash whenever the system was better for him with Shermer there. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I think that Jason Garrett is probably just going to screw all of this up and be fired after this year is because They have so much damn talent as far as skill guys. Whether you want to go up and down the roster, dude. Like, they've got Darius Slayton, they got Kenny Galladay, they got Evan Ingram, they've got Sterling Shepard. Like, they've got Kyle Rudolph, they got Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. All kinds of talent in the passing game. And I still think that Jason Garrett is going to find a way to make this offense vanilla, terrible, and horrible, and not accentuate what Daniel Jones does. And the whole thing, and I saw this out on Twitter, and I absolutely agree with it the other day, is that Shermer utilizes a ton of RPOs, play action when he was there, and we saw Daniel Jones like thrive in that. It's instead of like these 4-step drops, and you got somebody running deep outs and stuff like that. Jason Garrett needs to pull his head out of his ass and sit here and learn like what an actually creative offense looks like. Maybe we get that with this Kadarius Toney pick, but look, we've seen too much of just bad vanilla offenses out of Jason Garrett for me to sit here and think that, okay, this dog has learned new tricks. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, and that's the major problem with Garrett. I don't know how he's still a play caller in this league. He doesn't deserve it. I mean, I despise the Cowboys. Like, really despise the Cowboys. Being an Eagles fan, obviously I have every right to despise the Cowboys. But
is that what you asking me in DMs? Like, if I was a Cowboys fan?
Well, I was asking if you're a Cowboys fan because I know you live in Texas, and
I am not a Cowboys fan. Just to throw that out there.
You're all thankful for that. But because I remember we talked about it once, and I wasn't sure if you said Cowboys or someone else. I knew it was someone in the NFC. But I thought it would be cool if we dropped some of the schedule takes, and that's why I was asking. So because I know there's obviously Cowboys Eagles is always a big thing every single year, but we can talk about that. I mean, we play the Saints this year, and obviously a game that is always very heated because of the history that over the last few years of the Saints have of blowing us out. Obviously, the playoff game that we played against you guys a few years ago, where Alshon Jeffrey
with the Eagles,
where he let the pass.
Y'all took it to us last year. Jalen Hurts ran all over the damn field, man.
That's true.
Him and Miles Sanders, didn't they win that game?
We did win that game, but we weren't supposed to win that game.
No, that's true. That's true, man. That was the first 100-yard rusher. Oh my God! Who sniped me, man? Who got Justin Herbert right there? Are you serious?
My player is still on the board. He will stay. He must stay.
That's rough, dude. That's absolutely brutal. Can't believe that just happened. That's brutal.
Who sniped Justin Herbert? Craig did.
Why?
Roto Heat Craig, the gift king. The gift king.
That's crucial, man. Come on, why you do that to me? All right. Well, you know what? Fine. I'm going to sit here and just go another wide receiver then. That was going to be a Herbert pick for me.
I would have been surprised if Herbert lasts that long. And now I got sniped.
Nice.
Damn you,
Sutton
Davis. Bad? Oh, man, I'm a big Sutton guy. Both. See, here's the reason why me and Kluge can't draft together. Because our draft strategies and the players we love are so similar that we will go battle with each other. We literally had one where all we did was snipe each other back and forth for an entire draft, and all he said to me after is, "I cannot draft with you anymore because all we do is snipe each other." So, let's see. I'll take Chase Edmonds there, but I'm a big Sutton guy. Before this, he was 85% exposure on about I think 12 drafts. So, I'm big on him. I think Sutton is an elite talent. He's the last elite alpha guy that's down here. And obviously having Drew Lock as his quarterback does not help him at all whatsoever. But man, if Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver, that's a Super Bowl. That's a Super Bowl team, right?
I mean, look, their offense is stacked, dude. Like the offensive line is good. The defense, if they could stay healthy, is going to be extremely good. I think it's a possibility. I'm not going to rule anything out for Aaron Rodgers right now. Just considering all the things we see coming out of Green Bay, you just don't know which direction that's going to go. It's difficult right now. So you're doing all these best ball drafts. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, Sam, we just saw Devontae Adams, and I took him because I had to stop the fall. I mean, he fell all the way to the 22nd pick, man. Like, at that point, I almost don't give a shit who his quarterback is. Like, he's still going to, like, at the basement, Devontae Adams, even if his quarterback is freaking Blake Bortles, like, we still know Devontae Adams is going to get a ton of volume. You're looking at, like, what is he at that point? He's DeAndre Hopkins with crap quarterback play, which is still a top 15 wide receiver.
I mean, top 15. Good. He's still a top 5, arguably.
I mean, arguably, yeah. Like, I think that if Aaron Rodgers does stay in Green Bay, it's going to be really interesting as far as, like, what happens with that offense and doing these best ball drafts and what we see as far as, like, ADP. Like, everybody's gravitating away from a lot of different teams or players right now. And that's one of the great things. If you're building a portfolio of best ball, you want to sit here and take some of these players. You want to diversify whenever the ebbs and flows, like, people are down and their ADPs are dropping. Then you get some exposure to these players, even if, like, okay, say we're all wrong about stuff. I had a ton of exposure to Buffalo, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs last year. They carried me I almost got to the final table in Best Ball Mania and the bubble. If Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger wouldn't have actually, like, just crapped his pants there at the end, I would have been sitting at the final table all in the money. Because I leaned into, okay, everybody was sitting here crapping on Buffalo, and I was like, let me get some shares of this, and their ADPs, if all of this does come to fruition, which we saw, they smashed everybody, Sam.
Right.
Everybody.
Yeah, and that was the thing with Buffalo last year. I mean, nobody was in on Stephon Diggs last year. I had a home league that he went in, I want to say it was the 8th round. I took him in the 8th round, and I rode that man all the way to a championship. And that was one of the easiest things I have ever done. I just couldn't figure out why everyone was suddenly sleeping on Stephon Diggs, whether or not it was Josh Allen that he had to make a quantum leap just to make him relevant or not. It's still Stephon Diggs. He's still a star. There's no reason that he should have been in a spot where everyone was sleeping on him that bad. And I'm
speaking of zigging and zagging, I just took the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams stack, and I'm going to sit here and play the narrative that we're all wrong and that he goes back to Green Bay because the ADPs are dropping. And I was like, God, if I keep talking about this on air, if people are tuning into this, they're going to sit here and snipe me because Aaron Rodgers was like the top quarterback left. But I went ahead and gave you my analysis, Sam. I played with fire there, just in case, man.
I just took one of my favorite stacks lately, and that's the Tom Brady Antonio Brown stack. And I think that's a great stack for him because if you look at it, I mean, he didn't play for 2 years. He comes back, and the list of guys he's getting more points per game than some of the top 15 guys on the board. And I think I can pull up the tweet here. I just X'd out Underdog. But I can pull up the tweet, and Antonio Brown is just killing it, the last couple of years. He averaged more fantasy points per game than Michael Thomas, DJ Moore, CeeDee Lamb, Kenny Golladay, Cooper Kupp, and T. Higgins. So Antonio Brown is like a steal at this point. In the 9th round, on an offense that throws a ton with Tom Brady, I'm all day on Antonio Brown there. And, if Antonio Brown has a sliver of what made him like the overall fantasy wide receiver 1 for like 6 years from like 2012 all the way to 2018, like what else is there to do there?
So I like Antonio Brown, and I can't disagree with any of the points that you made. The only thing I'll say about Antonio Brown is we saw Chris Godwin kind of playing with one hand for part of the end of the last season. So I think that he can actualize and grab some more of that target share. And the other way, the problem in this format for Antonio Brown, with Underdog being 0.5 PPR versus PPR, I don't know how much touchdown equity he's going to have in this offense. They used him a ton in the screen game. What I want to see for Antonio Brown is that they use him more downfield this year, which could happen. I mean, the guy came in off the street, like literally we had to get his legs under him and stuff like that. So full off season, full training camp, all of those types of things. Could we see AB used down the field again? Yeah, that could definitely happen. I mean, Tom Brady showed everybody he ain't washed, man. And they integrated more play action down the stretch of the season. That's why you saw more Leonard Fournette and Rojo was just put on the shelf. So if we see more play action and more deep shots, that's what I want for Antonio Brown. If they use him more in the screen game like they did towards the end of the season, or like he was used basically when he arrived in Tampa, I got a little bit more concerns, and especially when you marry that in the touchdown equity.
It's an interesting one. Let's finish up some of these facts or myths while we're into the deep part of this draft. Who was a better player in their prime, Julio Jones or AJ Green?
I gotta go with Julio here. Julio is just a mutant. Like, Julio is like he's been built in a damn lab. Julio is still Julio now. You look at all the metrics and people talk about like, oh, he's washed. Go look at his yards per route run last year. Go look at what he did when he was some semblance of healthy. He is not washed. He's not. And don't come at me with your injury prone crap either. Like, you go look at all the game logs, man. He literally has played almost a full season over the last few years. So I'm in the, like, right now, the fact that Julio Jones is dropping to the 4th round in these drafts right now, which I grabbed him at pick 46, is criminal. It's absolutely criminal. So I'm still in on him, man. Like, if I gotta face him versus AJ Green was really, really good. But if you want to talk about injuries and what sapped a player, AJ Green missed more games over the last few seasons than freaking Julio Jones. So give me Julio.
Absolutely. And that foot really, they both struggled with foot injuries, which is, it's kind of iconic to see that happen to both of two of the greatest of their time. Does Julio fall on your Mount Rushmore of wide receivers ever?
It depends on how big that mountain is. I think Julio is in the top 10. Now, where you want to put him in that top 10 is very, very debatable. I think that the 3 that come to mind right now, off the top of my head, the best to ever put the cleats on right now, I mean, you would have to be talking about Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, and Jerry Rice. That's where the conversation starts for me.
Yep.
Is Julio, can he be 4? Can he make the mountain? Sure. I won't fight anybody on that. Like, but I can't put him in the top 3. So really, for me, Sam, it depends on how big that mountain is. Are we talking about a mountain? Are we talking about a hill? Or are we talking about somewhere in between?
I think the mountain can be 5 people. Mountain can be 5 people. Okay. Mount Rushmore's 4, so we can go with 5 there. I think Julio's definitely, if he's not there, if he's not at top 5, he's right there for me. Terrell Owens is there as well for me. Trying to think of who else. For some reason, I'm just drawing a blank. But Julio's right there, and he really has to be considered with the fact that, just on statistical premise alone, he's one of the greatest athletic freaks to ever play this football game.
He's so good, man, and he's still so good. Like, but there are so many other wide receivers and big body wide receivers. Like, Brandon Marshall doesn't get enough love. He really, really doesn't. Yeah. For all the crappy quarterbacks he played with, all of the stuff that he did in his career. It's just because he didn't play on a lot of good teams. They didn't win a lot of games. He didn't get rings and stuff like that. So I don't think that people give that man his due when he really, really should.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, it really just comes down to, how good you were over a period of time. And, Brandon Marshall was very good, but he just, he wasn't always there. I mean, and he was good for he was very good for a short period of time, but not a prolonged period of time. And I think that hurts him a little bit overall.
Did you take Bateman?
Yeah,
you took Bateman? Dang it! I had Bateman in the queue. Damn it, Sam.
I love Bateman. I'm big on Bateman just being the wide receiver 1 for Lamar this year. And
so are you in the camp? Tell me this about Bateman, man, because I've been fighting people out on Twitter about all this stuff, and they cite me all the historical lows of passing in Baltimore. Where do you sit on Bateman? Are you pushing him down in Dynasty, or are you like me, like, I'm just gonna dig my feet in?
No, for me, I'm not dropping Bateman down my rankings. If I can get that man at 110 and 111 in rookie drafts, I'm taking that all day. I truly feel as though Lamar has never gotten a chance to show what he can do with a stud wide receiver. Bateman is a true X.
Yep.
Lamar hasn't had that yet.
No,
He
Marquise
hasn't had the
Brown
chance.
was miscast, dude. Marquise Brown was never going to be an X. Ever, ever, ever. He was woefully miscast as that. So I don't disagree with you. I'm totally in on that. Like, I love Bateman. I think that he could get like a freaking 25% target share this year. And if that happens, wheels up, baby. Let's go.
And a lot of people were skeptical because of his last year, and his last year was not great because he had COVID. He look, Tanner Morgan is an awful quarterback.
Thank you. He's terrible. I talked about this, man. Like, he's not good. We're never going to talk about Tanner Morgan as being an NFL quarterback ever.
Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman made Tanner Morgan look so good. And we can bring up the video of Bateman, streaking down the sideline with the one arm catch for the touchdown in the end zone. That's the basic one. But truthfully, Bateman does everything well. He was for a period of time before I kind of came back to earth. He was my wide receiver too. Ahead of Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was at 3 because I just feel Rashad Bateman was the safest player in this draft. He had what Smith didn't have. Him and Smith technically were the best 2 in this draft. But you add the fact that Bateman doesn't have any of the theoretical size concerns that Devontae Smith has. Bateman is your guy. Like, he's the floor. He is the safe floor in this draft. And I was all in on him. If Philly was able to move up, if they didn't take Devontae Smith, if they were able to move up back into the first round and grab Rashad Bateman, I was on it all day. Like, he's that good for me. I've been looking at him since last year when I started watching him when he was playing college in Minnesota. I saw him take this one crossing route across the middle and then turn on the Jets all the way for a touchdown. And he just makes the game look so slow, and I just feel as though he's a slam dunk pick for Lamar to be the wide receiver 1 there. And there is no reason why he shouldn't succeed.
Nah, I don't disagree with you, man. I love Bateman, and anybody that's going to sit here and start the conversation with what he did in 2020 and talk about his slot usage, I've talked about it. You're telling on yourself, man. You didn't go back. You didn't watch him in 2018. You didn't watch him in 2019. He's fantastic. He played on the outside all the way back then and just balled out. Like, he manhandled people. Fantastic catches. Made Tanner Morgan look like an actual competent quarterback. So I'm with you. I think that he could sit here and gobble up targets this year. I think that there's big concerns in these types of drafts. If I was going to go with Lamar Jackson, I don't have any kind of want or love for Mark Andrews right now. I think Bateman could eat into his target share.
I've never been a huge Mark Andrews guy. I've always let everyone else grab him around me. I've never been concerned with the fact that Andrews is going to be the lead dog. It's really why I stayed away from the Baltimore passing attack, just because with Mark Andrews, and he doesn't have great hands either. He routinely lets balls slip through his hands, and it just makes for an uncomfortable ownership. And I'm the type of guy this year, at least, that if I don't walk out with one of the top 4 or 5 tight ends after Hawkinson and Pitts for me, I'm upset with it. So I need to be in that top 5 range for tight ends, and otherwise I'm not happy, and I have to punt tight end completely because the middle guys, they just don't do it for me. I'd rather take my chance with the high upside sleepers there. So, all right. Let me pick your brain on this one. And okay. Now we all know Tom Brady is the best or the greatest of all time.
Okay.
But who's the best quarterback of all time?
Not just talking about GOATs and Super Bowl wins and all that.
No, we're talking about best put together quarterback of all time, whether it's physicality, arm strength, statistical. We had the guys here, and I just got auto picked, and I picked Jalen Reagor, which is not a bad thing.
So for me, I'm actually going to go a little bit off script. I loved him, and I feel like he was one of the first players that we saw really kind of open the door for all these running quarterbacks and stuff like that. I will go back and I will sit here and tell you I love Steve Young. Love Steve Young. Now, is he necessarily the best ever quarterback, period? Not necessarily, but whenever you watch Steve Young, that combination of accuracy, mobility, playmaking ability, I loved him through and through, man. If we would have gotten like a longer career out of Steve Young, injuries, what have you, he was just absolutely fantastic, man. One of the first guys that I feel like kind of really like bust the door open for the mobile quarterbacks and stuff, too.
And yeah, as a lefty too, I mean, you get, when I was watching Michael Vick play when he joined the Eagles, I mean, like shades of Steve Young, man. The way that he played and the way that and I never got to see Steve Young play. Obviously, I'm a young kid. I'm 26 years old.
I was a 49ers fan growing up, and I remember being a little kid. I'm going to sit here and age myself right now. I remember growing up, and I remember watching the 95 Super Bowl. My parents let me stay up, and I remember watching Steve Young ball out that year with Jerry Rice. They played the Chargers, and they crushed them, man. I remember staying up and watching that one. So it's one of those things like you go back and you try to remember your first real memories of football and your association with the game. That's one of the earliest ones for me. Like I used to have, and I remember those jerseys. That year jersey for San Francisco was awesome. They had like the black outline and the shading around the numbers and stuff like that. Still, I love those throwback jerseys. So it's one of my earliest memories. So that's probably why I'm sitting here recalling Steve Young of all freaking players.
I like that. I was not expecting you to say Steve Young. I was expecting you to kind of go, a little chalky and go along the lines of, Brady, Manning, Rodgers. I'm gonna go with Peyton Manning for mine because I truly think that no one has personified the quarterback position more than the Sheriff did, for the game of football. I mean, came out in 98, immediately, had the most interceptions ever for a rookie. I think it was 26. And, everyone wrote him off immediately, and nobody was really sure that he was going to be the guy. But, I mean, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, I mean, those guys and him, Dallas Clark, I mean, he turned them and he turned the Colts into like a winning franchise. I mean, this guy, he changed football in Indianapolis forever.
Yep.
And, he went to Denver, obviously, after the neck fusion in 2012, and he went on to win a Super Bowl there. But, I really think that, in terms of great dynasties, we have the Brady dynasty. We have Bart Starr, the dynasty of Bart Starr. We have God, why am I blanking on this? The Troy Aikman years in Dallas. I mean, we have all these great dynasties, but there's really nothing like the Manning football dynasty. And I hate to bring Eli into it because again, I'm not a huge Eli guy either, but I have to give that football dynasty so much credit for what they've done. But it was really Peyton that really made football enjoyable for me to watch. For me, the 2006 Super Bowl was the first one I actually watched.
So you're saying Eli didn't make it fun to watch?
I mean, no. Well, he made it fun when he was on the ground in his trademark facial expressions. That made me very happy. Oh
man, all those memes are still good to use, man. They're still good stuff.
They're so usable. Like, and they're never gonna run out of gas because they don't run out of gas. They're timeless. They're absolutely timeless. But I do want to let's go back to, and I know we talked about Jalen Hurts already, but we're wrapping up this draft, and before I let you go after this draft, I kind of want to find out what you think of the future of Jalen Hurts. I know we touched on it briefly a little bit, but do you think that he's going to be the Eagles starter for the next, say, 5 to 7 years?
I could see it. I could see a reality where that happens. It really comes down to what does he do in this year. And I think that Nick Sirianni, if a lot of those concepts and what they did in Indy cross over to Philly, we're going to see an offense that's very, very different than what happened to Jalen Hurts last year. Like, if you look at Jalen Hurts last year and what they did and how they utilized him, I mean, out of, I want to say it's like all the quarterbacks with over 100 or more dropbacks, Jalen Hurts, ADOT, was second to only Joe freaking Flacco. Like, so all they basically did was say Jalen Hurts, run around in circles, and then throw it deep. You know, I think that this offense is going to be more quick timing. I think they're going to design more easy completions for him and then roll him out, get him into space. I think this offense is going to be great this year. Like, I think let me dial that back a little bit.
Not going to be great. It's going to be a little bit ugly.
I think it's going to be great for him. Let me put it that way. I think we're going to see a different Jalen Hurts in an offense that's going to scheme up easier throws for him than what he was asked to do last year. And if that's the case, and Jalen Hurts shows that he's a better passer than what anybody gives him credit for, which I think that he is, because he showed that during his time in Oklahoma. If you go back and look at him coming out as a prospect, and you dive up how good he was at all different levels of the field, whether it was passer rating, completion percentage, if you want to go to PFF grades and things like that. Like, he was good. He was really, really good. And so I think that he was put into a difficult situation with Carson Wentz breathing down his back. And he was put into a difficult situation because nothing was done the way it should have been done in Philly last year. They poorly utilized Miles Sanders. The offensive line was in shambles. You had them playing players like the zombie corpse of Alshon Jeffrey over Travis Fulgham. Like, it was just a bunch of shit. And it was basically Jalen Hurts, go make this, polish up this turd and make it work. And so I think this year, you're going to see a more cohesive offensive system. You're going to see easier completions. I really could see Jalen Hurts being the quarterback, whether it's you want to talk about 5 years, I could see him being the starter for at least the next 3 years. And in fantasy, that's all we can ask for right now, Sam. I mean, in Dynasty, I think you can't play any longer than like 2 years because the landscape, players, all of that stuff changes so damn fast. That you really can't go that far out. So, for what we care about in Dynasty, yeah, I'm fine with Jalen Hurts. Like, I'm willing to sit here and make that bet. And if I'm wrong, then, well, you know what? I'll be trading for a quarterback after this year. But I'm going to ride with Jalen Hurts.
I like it. And, not enough people are willing to give Jalen Hurts a true shot as being the top dog in Philly. And, I'm a little skeptical myself. But I have faith. And I was always a Carson Wentz fan. I think he's a mental midget for what happened, but I think this system, the system is a lot different now, and I think I think we're gonna see that change almost immediately. So hopefully it'll go well with them, and we will be talking about Jalen Hurts as a franchise quarterback next year. But let's close this out a little bit. Let's get some of your rankings here. Let's go through your top fives at each position to close out this show.
So quarterbacks, at least as of right now, I'm with Mahomes. I got Josh Allen as QB2, Kyler's 3, Dak is 4, and Lamar is 5. Not probably a lot of surprises. I mean, anybody tickle your fancy is like, whoa, what the hell is that?
I actually have Kyler at 1 for mine, but other than that, I think, and that only look, and I can't believe I'm saying this now because I was not a Rondale Moore guy pre-draft, but I love.
Really? Why do you not like Rondale?
Well, besides the fact that he's shorter than I am, and that's really hard.
And he's also got a vertical that's probably like 4 times both of us.
That's fair. That's fair. And the dude can squat 600 pounds, but I don't know.
When he jumps, he's got the catch radius or at least the catch point of somebody that's about 6 feet tall or 6'1". So
he's an analytical darling. I do not understand analytics. I am frightened by them. So I err on the side of caution with Rondale Moore. I've never been a huge fan, but I like the landing spot. He's going to step right in there, and if he does what everyone says that he can do, he steps in and he's the immediate short area, middle of the field target guy for Kyler.
Sorry, I just got sniped. Somebody just took Brian Edwards right before me. That's my man's.
So let me ask you, why are you a Brian Edwards fan?
Can I throw this back at you? Why are you not?
Maybe because the fact that he had 3rd round draft capital and was targeted 15 times last year. That's going to play a big part for me.
All right, I'm going to push back on both of those things. So you're talking about a wide receiver that got third-round draft capital when he wasn't even able to work out. This is all based off of his analytical profile, and I don't even know if the Raiders believe in analytics or not, or they just watch the tape or what have you. But this was a guy that wasn't able to work out prior to said, here, hold on, let me get this pick real fast. I got sniped again. Ramondre Stevenson is gone.
That's a good one. I was thinking about that. But I like Amari Rogers, so.
But with Bryan Edwards, got the third-round draft capital, wasn't even able to work out, didn't have a pro day, was coming off of a broken foot. Now you enter into a weird offseason, and I think that if he would have worked out, considering his size, considering what he did, he never even posted a 1,000-yard receiving season at South Carolina.
Right.
Yet he went in the third round. Considering all of that, if he would have worked out, I think he would have been a second-round pick. But he dropped because we didn't have testing numbers on him. And and his numbers weren't great if they just want to stare at the page. So I think those are the reasons, some of the reasons why you believe in him, some of the reasons why he dropped. Now, as far as what he did or didn't do in his rookie season, I mean, the guy, again, was recovering from a broken foot. Also missed a ton of time. I think it was a knee and an ankle sprain. Missed like 4 or 5 games in the rookie season as well. And so you're talking about weird offseason. He's behind the 8 ball. Was injured walking into the year. And he missed time during the year. All of these. And I'm not trying to explain away like why he didn't do anything in his rookie season. But these are all things. If you compound all of these things on top of each other. I mean, tell me why or how he was supposed to succeed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It doesn't stop me from wondering just what the plan for that offense is, because it really doesn't. The offense as a whole outside of Darren Waller makes little to zero sense for me from the running backs down. With that, let's hear your top 5 running backs there.
So my top 5, I mean, there's probably not a whole lot of surprises. I'm going to sit here and shatter everybody's earth here. CMC, Dalvin, Saquon. I do have Zeke as my RB4, and JT right now is my RB5.
That's interesting. You're not a Henry guy for this year? You think he's going to fall off?
It's not that I don't love Henry. I just think that so with Henry, I think that he's going to get the volume. The problem and the thing that I don't hear enough people talking about is I think Todd Downing is a terrible coordinator. I think that he is not.
I've heard that.
And I think that all the things that have helped this offense be so damn efficient could possibly all wither and die this year. Like, they were extremely fast-paced last year. You look at, like, neutral script pace, total pace. They were top 5 in both of those. Todd Downing was not good the last time we saw him run an NFL offense. And people were like, well, they kept him in place because he's going to run the same things that Arthur Smith was. Okay, so your best hope is that Todd Downing is a watered-down version of Arthur Smith, and that's what we're trying to sit here and tell ourselves and buy into all of this? So I think that Derrick Henry is going to get the volume, obviously, as long as he's healthy, which I'm not projecting injuries. But if the offense is less efficient and it doesn't run as well, they've lost skill players on the passing game. I'm really, really high on Anthony Firkser, but I'm really low on all these other passing options. Like, do I like A.J. Brown? Yes, I like A.J. Brown because of the target volume. Am I willing to buy into a ton of A.J. Brown considering that he is extremely high-priced right now? Not a ton. Because if Ryan Tannehill takes a step back, you're really all basing all of that off of target volume. And if he doesn't hit the touchdowns, he's probably not going to pay off the fact of you're already drafting him at wide receiver 6, wide receiver 5 in a lot of different spots. So this is not that I hate Derrick Henry. It's just that I think that Zeke is in for a massive bounce back. The Cowboys are going to be close to the top of the NFL in plays run. They're going to be close to the top of the NFL in points scored, as well as Jonathan Taylor, dude. He was way better as a receiver than people give him credit as a prospect coming into the NFL. He showed Nick Chubb-like ability to break off long runs. I will not be, shocked. And this is going to sound very hyperbolic. If Jonathan Taylor gets enough volume and he runs for 2,000 yards, you won't see me sitting here having to, be like, oh my God, look at this! Because all he needs is volume, man. That's all he needs.
Yeah. Yeah, he really does. And I don't. The only reason I'm not, sketched about Downing it is that they're going to be able to run him into the ground. Whether Downing's Downing's a good coordinator or not, all you have to do is run the ball to him. And I'm going to end this by going Jacoby Myers.
Nice.
But I like that pick. Jacoby Myers is a nice end of the draft sleeper for me. But this was a good draft. I'm going to share this. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can go back to just us for the end of this show. But let's get your wide receivers and tight ends before we head out.
Yeah, so I'll give you actually two sets of wide receiver ranks here for my top 5. We're going to go with if Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay, I'll give you that set, and then I'm going to give you the opposite set. So if Aaron Rodgers goes, poof, he's bye-bye. He's to Denver, he's wherever else, he's not in Green Bay. If he stays in Green Bay, I'm going to go back with Adams as my wide receiver 1, Diggs is my 2, Tyreek's my 3, Keenan Allen is actually my 4, DeAndre Hopkins is my 5. Now, if he does leave, I think Diggs can be the number 1 wide receiver. I still think that's in his range of outcomes in fantasy this year. Tyreek's 2, Keenan's 3, Hopkins is 4, and I'll put A.J. Brown for the time being as 5. Because I think there's a muddle mess. Like, I could see it being A.J. Brown. I could really see Allen Robinson also being a top 5 guy. Like, I think that's in his range of outcomes with better quarterback play. If we do see Justin Fields start at the beginning of the year, I think Allen Robinson could be a top 5 guy. So,
yeah, I
five's kind of in flux for me.
I agree. I love the Keenan Allen ranking, but by the way, I mean,
he was wide receiver 3 with Herbert last year. Like, people are like, okay, well, how can you put him inside the top 5? And I was like, did y'all see him play last year? Did you see how many targets he got? What changed about that? What changed? I mean, they lost Hunter Henry. I don't understand. Like, how is he not going to eat?
I have him at 6, and the only reason I don't have him inside my top 5 is because Calvin Ridley currently occupies the number 5 spot for me. I'm huge Calvin Ridley guy. I called that he was going to be a top 8 guy last year. Absolutely.
I was with you.
Infatuated with him. Julio, from what I've heard, and who knows at this point, Julio is, 50-50 to be a member of the Falcons this year. Who knows where he's going to go next? I do think that they have to shed his salary because they are in cap hell. But, we'll go with that. And then let's hear your tight end rankings. Let's round it out.
So, Kelsey's my 1. Obviously, that's chalk. Nobody's going to sit there and push back on you for that. Right. Darren Waller is my number 2 right now.
Mine as well.
Kittle's my 3. Hawkinson's my 4. And number 5, I'm going to go with actually a guy, and I know I crapped all over Todd Downing, but I'm going to go with a guy at number 5 because they have nobody left to catch the damn ball. Anthony Firkser is my number 5, and actually that's why I reached for him in this draft. If you look at how he's been utilized, all tight ends that had 25 or more targets last year, he was number 1 above everybody else in slot snaps. That's above Mike Gesicki. That's above Logan Thomas. That's above everybody else. He's going to be used as a wide receiver. So everybody that's tossing love out there about Josh Reynolds, you're picking the wrong baby to love right now. I think it's Firkser. Firkser is the guy that I want, and his ADP is still stupidly cheap.
He's I'm
in on him.
He's no Jonnu Smith, but he can run. I mean, we saw a couple plays from him where he was able to take the ball. He was able to run, good routes. I mean, he's no slouch. And the fact that they did not add anybody of value when everybody was projecting them to go wide receiver in round 1 or 2, I think that Firkser has a huge chance. I'm not ready to rank him in the top 5 personally, but he's inside my top 10. And we all know that the 6 to 12 range is always a crapshoot from year to year over the past few years. It would not shock me to see him be at number 6, behind the Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, and then the Hawkinson, Andrews, and Pitts group as well. It would not shock me to see him land at the back end of that group.
I mean, my whole thing with Firkser is he could have, like, all these other guys, like, we're talking about. I mean, Sam, like, he literally could be this year's Logan Thomas, a guy that has like a 25-26% target share because they have nobody else to throw the damn ball to. That's the reason why I gravitate to him over like people like Mark Andrews, who has dominated the target share in Baltimore. That ain't happening with Rashad Bateman there now. So I'm going to go off the page, and a lot of times the way that I do my rankings and stuff like that, and whether that's rookie drafts, whether that's best ball, whether that's seasonal, is the other thing about this is that, and this is not just ranking players high to be like, oh, here, look what I threw at the top, haha, you're going to talk about it and give me shit about it. I do it also because if people are utilizing our rankings, which you put rankings out there into the space, if people do utilize them, I'm above consensus on these players because I believe in them and I believe in their path to do these things. It's not just for hot takes. It's not just for clicks. It's not just so I consider and be different than everybody else, because we've run through this list, dude. Like, there's a lot of chalk that I'm eating throughout this top 5 list. But there's other guys that I think they can actualize pads that I'm willing to sit there and take some stands on that maybe other people aren't.
Absolutely. But this was a great show. You know, apart from our small technical difficulties earlier, I really want to thank you for coming on. Go ahead, tell everyone where they can find you, all that stuff.
Yeah, man, check me out on Twitter at @dbro_FFB. You talked about the podcast. We're at Fade the Chalk on basically every platform you could possibly find podcasts at. My co-host, Adam Pfeiffer, and I, we do 4 to 5 episodes per week. We go through DFS, Redraft, Dynasty, Best Ball, all kinds of stuff. Basically, if it's fantasy football or the NFL, we're probably going to talk about it, man. And the rest of my content is spread across all of FTN. So FTN Fantasy, FTN Bets, FTNDaily.com. If you head over there right now, I mean, we've got all kinds of stuff dropping. I just dropped a 4-round. I've got 2 4-round rookie mock drafts, both one quarterback and Superflex. I got a free article series going right now with Brad Evans. We're going through our top booms, busts, breakouts, and bets. We're going to go through all 32 NFL teams. So if you want to get in the door at FTN and sit here and see what we're all about, go check those free articles out. You like the content, get signed up, man. Use the promo code FTC, save 10%. It's a ton of content. For the amount of money that people pay for fantasy stuff, it is a ton of content pouring out of FTN daily.
And a great team that you guys got over there. Guys, you guys can find me at Swagman95 on Twitter. You can find me at TheShowFF on Twitter. All my video content over at 14p_pod, and all my Eagles content over at 4th and John. Thank you guys. Good night.